Hello, this is Todd Luck, and this is a review of the Jane Porter figure that's part of the Hero Hacks line by Boss Fight Studio. And so, yes, we will be letting Tarzan's wife out of her plastic prison, and we will take a look at the figure. We'll see what she looks like with the new Tarzan figure, and since she's on the 3 3/4 inch scale, we'll see what she looks like with other figures and accessories and play sets and all that on this scale. I went through a whole lot of stuff like that with the Tarzan figure in my review of that, so you might want to check that out. I'm not going to be too redundant here, but we will be taking a look at things that are very Jane specific that you can pose Jane with. And so let's start by taking a look at this gorgeous packaging with this wonderful painting on the front. For description of the figure, it says, "Not your average Jane," which I'm sure at some point will make a very clever tagline on a movie poster. And so we turn it around to the back, and you get your cross cell. It shows the figures in the wave, and I've already done a review of that Tarzan figure, so you might want to check that out. And we've got a bio in the back for Jane, and I'll let you guys pause that and read that if you want to. So this is collector-friendly packaging, and you can, of course, just stand it up like this, or you can flip up this little hook on the top, and you can hang it. To open it, you're just going to open the flap on the side and slide out the card. And then you'll remove the figure, and all of this is going to snap in and out of this packaging really easy. You're going to be able to put her right back in the packaging and store her when you're done displaying her. And to save dummies like me a little bit of time, normally Boss Fight Studios doesn't use tape to keep the accessories in, but on the inside clamshell, they did use it on these hands. I couldn't see the tape, and I was just wondering why they weren't coming out. And so as a really cool bonus feature, you can turn the packaging around once you take everything out, and then slide the card back right back in there. And it'll make a really great backdrop for your figure if you want to display it that way. And so here she is outside of the packaging with all of her accessories. And so this is a very interesting look for Jane. This is based on the novels, that's why she's blonde, but this is not necessarily the way she normally is in the novels, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. This look has a very interesting visual history to it. In the novels, Jane Porter is this chick from Baltimore who goes to Africa and meets Tarzan, and of course they fall in love and get married. They eventually move into a rather nice estate in Africa, and she is a creature of civilization, so she's normally sleeping in a nice bed, she's wearing normal clothes. However, she also gets kidnapped a lot, and so by the third novel, Beast of Tarzan, she grabs a shotgun and turns it on her captors, and from there on out, she develops a certain set of skills to escape and generally be a big old pain in the butt to anyone who tries to kidnap her. And so the first instance of a brown jungle girl type outfit for Jane that I could find was in the silent movie Tarzan the Tiger, which adapts Tarzan and the Jewels of Opar, and basically Jane just grabs a table covering and makes a makeshift little dress out of it. And so in the 1930s, when MGM put out Tarzan the Ape Man, they decided not to use the novels and came up with their own version of Tarzan and their own version of Jane called Jane Parker. And by the second movie, she had basically learned most of Tarzan's skills, complete with her own Tarzan yell, and was sporting a two-piece brown jungle girl outfit. And so variations of this look became so synonymous with this character on the big screen that in Disney's Tarzan, they actually put their version of Jane in an outfit like that at the end of the movie. But probably the most relevant use of this costume for this particular figure would be when Trendmasters planned to use it for an unreleased Jane figure in the 1990s. It was going to come with a spear and a knife, a computer disc, cheetah to chimpanzee, and she was even going to have the Maureen Sullivan Jane yell, which would have sounded like this. And so I don't know if it's coincidence or if this is an intentional tribute to that Trendmasters figure, but I think it's really awesome. It does look like an updated version of that figure, and it even comes with the exact same accessories, the spear and the knife. Well, at least as far as the weapons go, we don't have any animals with her, unfortunately. And unfortunately, that spear and the knife are the exact same spear and knife we got with Tarzan. She also comes with a ton of hands, which we'll be taking a look at and a figure stand. So I've never actually been able to get Boss Fight Studios figure stands to work. But as you can see, the figure doesn't need it at all. She stands just fine on her own. And if you need a figure stand for more stability or dynamic posing, standard 3 3/4 inch figure stands work just fine on these figures. However, you can get that Boss Fight Studio stand to work if you want to. Viewer let me know that if you take a hairdryer to the bottom of their feet, you can then make the pegs go in to the holes on the bottom of their feet. Okay. This works for the shorter pegs. The longer ones on there just kind of hang out of their feet, but that is an option if you do want that stand to work. Be warned that if you do use that technique, you can stretch out the holes on the bottom of the foot and they will no longer work with figure stands that have the smaller pegs. All right, taking a look at this sculpt. It is absolutely gorgeous. You can see there was a lot of work that went into the face, a lot of work that went into this hair. You can see it braided in the back, all this detail. Got a flower in her hair there. The locket here is a separate piece. You can remove her head and take that off, but it actually behaves quite well compared to Tarzan's locket. You know, you don't have to readjust it quite as much when you move her head around. The loincloth and her top is nicely detailed, very well textured. And the great thing about this is that it is this softer, more pliable plastic. So, you know, it doesn't get in the way of her maneuvering, or if you want to sit her on animal or something, it works quite well. It's non-removable, but there's really no reason you would want to remove her clothing unless, of course, you're a customizer or something like that. And her body sculpt, it looks great. I mean, it's a nice female body, a little on the skinny side, but that's fine. And it just looks great. For some reason, her undergarment doesn't match her loincloth, unlike Tarzan, but it's barely noticeable. You can just see it a little bit on the side. So as far as articulation goes, she can rotate her head around, move the arms, elbows. She can rotate at the wrist. Most of the wrists will have hinges that move this way. And so she can move her legs. She's got double jointed knees, movement at the feet, rotation at the legs. She can rotate her body all over the place. She can pretty much just do whatever the heck you want her to do, right? Like the Boss Fight Studios Tarzan, she doesn't have double jointed elbows, so she can't beat her chest or cup her mouth or anything like that. The knife fits into her hand quite well. Curiously, unlike Tarzan and the Trendmasters figure that got canceled, she doesn't have a sheath for the knife, but you could try to put it in the loincloth and store it that way. And she grips the spear quite nicely and can get single-handed or double-handed poses. So on the interchangeable hands, if you meet some resistance getting them off and on, take a hairdryer to her hands for about 20 seconds on low and then try it. That should loosen up the plastic. So here she is with her open hands. She can use to surrender. And then, of course, she has closed fists to fight her way out of captivity. And she has a second pair of gripping hands that have the hinges that move up and down on the wrists. And so, yeah, I love this figure. I think this is fantastic. I mean, there's really nothing here that I can complain about. Maybe next time, you know, they could color her undergarments brown if they're going to use an outfit like this. And it would be nice if we could have gotten like an extra head or something with a different expression. But other than that, this is just a fantastic rendition of this particular version of Jane. However, you know, this is hopefully not the only version we're going to get, because obviously there's many other different looks for Jane that I would love to see as figures. I would be totally down for variants of this figure that are based on her different looks in the novel, the comics, and the movies over the years, especially if the novel version came with a shotgun. Sign me up. I think it would be especially cool to have some figures based on the Jane Porter comics that Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated is putting out. You can actually get the first issue on the Edgar Rice Burroughs website, and there's going to be a Kickstarter for the next graphic novel coming up. Oh wait, am I forgetting something? Oh, that's right. I was supposed to pose you with someone. Who was it? You're married to someone famous, aren't you? Just kidding. Tarzan, get down from that tree and spend some time with your wife. And so here they are together. She's a little bit tall compared to Tarzan, but that's a very minor gripe. They look fantastic together. And you can get them in battle poses together. The couple that slays together stays together. And of course, you can get them in mushier poses too. Regardless of the nature of the pose that you put these two in, I recommend using figure stands to help them stand because they are lighter figures and can easily topple over. And here they are with their jungle friends. So, like I said, you can find just about anything on the 3 3/4 inch scale. And just because I'm going to show you stuff from other lines of toys doesn't mean I wouldn't love to see Boss Fight Studio come out with all of this. So the animals that are beside of them are off of Amazon, and they're non-articulated. Like I said, if Boss Fight came out with it, they would probably be articulated, and that would be amazing. The elephant is actually from Jumanji. And yes, they can both ride the elephant together just fine. I did get a viewer who pointed out in my Tarzan review that the Jumanji elephant is not an African elephant, and this viewer actually had a couple suggestions on elephants on this scale that I could get, and so I got one of those in the mail coming my way, so we'll be taking a look at that in a future video and see how that elephant works with both of these figures. If you're looking for a Professor Porter, I think Indiana Jones's dad makes a pretty good one. You could even have him marry Tarzan and Jane like he did at the end of the second novel. The Indiana Jones line also has an assortment of characters that might kidnap Jane in the novels, like Arab raiders or soldiers or just random jerks from Europe. And just to simplify things, here's Jane just pulling a gun on all of them at one time. And just for fun, here's Jane getting in a knife fight with Shauna the She-Devil from the Marvel Universe line over who wore it best. And the 3 3/4 inch scale is so diverse, you can really just pose her with anything you want to. I mean, if you want to have a bunch of other female heroes from pop culture, you can probably find them on this scale. What I'm showing you is just the tip of the iceberg. And I want to focus in on Princess Leia in this outfit for a second because Return of the Jedi, the first part of it on Tatooine, was essentially a tribute to A Princess of Mars, Edgar Rice Burroughs' first novel, complete with a captive princess in a Dija Thoris outfit. And so imagine how cool it would be if we had an actual Dija Thoris figure on this scale that we could pose with Jane, an actual John Carter figure we could pose with Tarzan. I really, really hope that happens someday and that Boss Fight Studios can put out some Mars figures. And again, on the 3 3/4 inch scale, there are so many possibilities and almost no limits to what you can do. This scale is so insane that you can actually pit Jane Porter versus Godzilla with a city in the background. Heck, I can see that working as a comic. Come on now. Godzilla versus Jane Porter to the death. So anyway, that's all of my thoughts on this amazing figure. Just so glad to see both Tarzan and Jane on this scale, and definitely looking forward to future figures from Boss Fight Studio. All right, like and subscribe for more videos, and until next time, see ya.